for joining us for an episode of All About PR. If you're tuning in for the first time, on this podcast, we speak to experts from the field of PR and communication from across the world and bring you an interesting conversation on the subject every week. Today, we speak to Pooja Trehan, a seasoned communications professional who has over 15 plus years of experience. Having learned from all sides of the PR ecosystem, corporate, agency, and as an agency owner, her diverse experience gave her an insight into each side. With a PR agency, she learned how things are done on the ground level. She quickly rose up the ranks to head national and international projects. Her corporate experience spanning almost a decade with Colgate, Castrol, Bennett and Coleman added to her understanding of the larger picture. She joined the Entrepreneur Brigade 5 years back and she passionately created a business on everything food. She built a business she never needs to take a vacation from and has serviced over 50 brands in just 5 years. Recognized as Reputation Today's 40 Young Turk Class of 2020 and a jury member for Campaign India PR Awards, we kickstart a conversation with Pooja Trehan today about her experience across the complete spectrum of communication that includes agency, corporate, and her entrepreneurial venture. So let's add her on. Hi Pooja, how are you doing?
Hey Tarun, good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for joining us. We're delighted to be hosting you on the podcast today. Let's start by getting to know more about your professional journey and why you decided to get into PR.
Why did I decide to get into PR? It's a very funny story actually. After my bachelor's, I started working as a freelancer, writing for the local publications of Times of India. And once I understood what it is to be on the journalist side, I wanted to get into a mass media college and figure out what are the other avenues that are available. I think that's when I headed to Symbiosis and felt that PR is my calling. Rather, PR chose me more than me deciding a career into PR. It's really funny and not many people know about it. I'm sure everyone will know about it now. Thanks for asking. And about my journey into PR, for more than 15 years now, I've been pursuing a career in communications. What's thrilling for me is designing a brand or an organization's voice. That's what actually drives me, apart from my love for black coffee and my 6 a.m. runs. But I have to accept and confess rather that the professional journey has been a very, very interesting learning curve for me with brands like Colgate Palmolive, Castrol India, Bennett and Coleman, and Genesis BCW, not to forget my entrepreneurial venture, Restaurants.
That's really interesting. But we did a couple of earlier episodes. It's interesting that a lot of the people, senior professionals that we spoke to, also mentions the same thing that, they did not choose PR. PR chose them. Is that a common refrain in the industry?
I don't really know that, but from an outsider's point of view, PR might just seem like, you're handling media or writing out press releases, writing documents. But honestly, it's much more exciting than that. You're building brands, you're creating stories, you're designing how a brand or how a leader of a brand needs to go out and needs to take their voice out there. The minute you find this element exciting, I think that's what gets, the inner communicator attracted to the role of being a PR person or a communications person. Just as you said, all the communications professionals out there, when they say that PR chose us, I think this must be the most common thread. They found that interesting element that caught their attention and they wanted to continue working there. It has to be a self-motivated factor. No one else can ask you to be a better communicator.
Interesting. So what was that moment for you? What was that one eureka moment where you felt, this is what I want to do?
I think it was my institute at Symbiosis when I took up the master's program there. When you're exposed to different avenues in media and you choose to pick up your internships, I think the one that interested me most was PR because it gave me an opportunity to go speak to the brands, be it the founder, be it the owner, be it the marketing person, work with them as an internship, try and understand what their problem is. Can I offer in a solution to them? How can we work better to get that brand more visibility? I think that is what got me excited, that you work, you collaborate rather with a brand and enhance their visibility. You take them out there, you communicate their story out there. And in all this, Tarun, you have to remember that you have to stay unique. You have to stay different. You have to say something that's interesting. and yet stand out to catch people's attention.
Interesting.
I know I'm rambling a lot and saying too many things, but I think all of this came together, and that's when I felt that, yeah, PR is what I wanted to take up.
It was not just one moment, it was a collection of moments that told you or gave you signs along the way saying that this is what you need to do in life.
Absolutely.
So, Pooja, you've been in an agency, you've been with corporates, as well as you started your own entrepreneurial venture. Tell us which stint was the most enjoyable or most gratifying for you, and what were the learnings in each of these stints for you?
I'm sure the typical answer that you're looking for is for me to pick up one of them from the whole spectrum. But I'm going to disappoint you here and say that all of them were very interesting. And in fact, they added to my learning curve. So I hope you've accepted that as an answer.
Yeah, let's move from there.
So what was important for me was that an agency helped me get stronger fundamentals, understand what at grassroots level as a PR professional, as a communication professional, we need to learn, we need to start with, what is it that we need to grow with. So for
Right.
example, building media relationships or understanding how employees and teams internally within an organization work. What is it that your client is seeking? What is it that the client brief is really all about? And I think that was my place where I also learned you don't need to say yes to everything the client asks for. So that was one of the biggest lessons for me from a PR agency. And when I move on to corporate, I think the corporate PR was all about it was a very interesting landscape. It was ever evolving because businesses kept changing. But the eye opener was that within a corporate organization, there are many more stakeholders versus what you've seen as a PR agency employee. So communicating with all those stakeholders, again, was completely a different learning experience. And if you have to
And how about your entrepreneurial journey? What was that like?
Wow, that was completely different. My entrepreneurial journey actually told me that designations don't exist, don't matter in life. Nothing, none of that. I'm sure you'll resonate with that.
Absolutely.
So you can be a founder, you can be an owner, co-founder, or you can have the most quirky designation of a chief happiness officer. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you need to deliver for your client. You need to grow your business. You're as good as your last campaign or your last story. You need to get up, fight the new battles each day, and still deliver for the client. I can't call up the client and say, I don't feel well today, I can't perform. Doesn't work at all.
Yeah, you seem to be chief everything officer as well along with it.
Everything. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's really a client campaign or a client documentation or I need to courier something. Has to be done, has to be done.
Absolutely. I think each one of these aspects of different ways of doing PR from different angles, I think it's helped you grow as a professional. I do believe each experience would have added a lot to your learning. So I'm coming back to corporate PR. You seem to have a very strong streak of corporate PR throughout your career. Was that a conscious choice? And if yes, then why?
Yes, it was a conscious choice. I was very clear I want to grow in the corporate sector and do a lot of corporate PR after my understanding and strong fundamentals with a PR agency. The reason I felt that was because a corporate organization makes you understand much more as a communications professional. One, you understand how you're aligning your messaging with the business goals. What is it that the leader needs to talk and why are they talking? And what is that story that I am telling my employees, which at the same time I need to talk externally. So these couple of factors actually got me attracted to corporate PR.
So help us understand the different verticals that are there in corporate PR.
So a decade ago, if I would have looked at a corporate PR or a corporate communications team, it would be a team leader and supported by maybe one or two maximum team members. Then that would further be divided into media relations, that is external media, who would be working closely with their external PR agencies, and internal PR, which would involve reaching out to stakeholders within the organization, be it company offices, factories, and working very, very closely or collaborating very closely with the HR teams.
Okay.
But today, one of the newer elements that has got added is either the existing team members have upskilled themselves to understand digital media, or there's a new team member on board who understands digital platforms, digital tools, They know how to create new narratives, new styles of stories across different kinds of digital platforms and programs.
Right.
So this is more or less a structure that is today evolving as part of a corporate communications team. Not to forget that advocacy and CSR that every communications team did was usually a part of within this small team that existed.
Okay, so I also understand that there is a newer vertical or new kid on the horizon, so to say, in India when it comes to corporate PR, which is internal communication. Is this a part of corporate PR or is this a separate function that requires a completely different skill set?
So if I have to put this in context, internal communications is that water boy at the sports field that never got importance or never got acknowledged for the hard work.
All
But
right.
yeah, but today, irrespective of whether you're a Roger on the field or a Nadal on the field, whether, if it's a football match or a cricket match, does not matter. And does not matter whatever be the sport, that water boy is the key element in all possible games today.
Right.
Now, why I call that internal communications the water boy is because internal communications existed. Employees were always communicated with. There were town halls, there were newsletters, there were intranets. I'm sure you guys have worked a lot with a lot of clients too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but then no one ever paid attention to the fact that how someone is working so seamlessly within an organization with different kinds of stakeholders, yet communicating, thinking on their feet, and staying agile. So these were
Right.
things which were never noticed earlier.
Okay, so do you think it has come of age in India?
I'd rather say yes, and maybe we could thank the pandemic for that because a lot of working from home has pushed the organizations and the leaders to understand how can they help their employees. And people today are being very, very mindful about the fact that if there is a story that you need to create about your brand, your employee is your brand ambassador. Start with them first.
Right.
So I think that is the reason and how internal communication teams today have started to work with all stakeholders internally, be it any kind of environment, and yet ensure that your messaging is going out there, is actually getting them noticed.
So, do you think there is an overlap in a function with corporate communication as such for internal comms as well?
I think they're all inclusive of each other. Corporate communications could be your umbrella brand, and there are different streams or there are different funnels coming out of it. I cannot look at one function exclusive from the another one.
Okay. So, let me rephrase my question. Do you think internal comm has a greater overlap with corporate communication or a greater overlap with HR?
I think it's working together with both of them. Corporate communication looks at your overall brand messaging. Corporate
Right.
communication is looking at how are you talking to your audiences through different platforms. And internal communication is one platform. So corporate communications is enabling that larger platform for you to talk to different audiences. Whereas HR is a key partner for internal employees. I mean, internal communications, because I cannot be motivating my employees today or encouraging them, exciting them without making HR that part of it.
Agreed.
And I have to add one more thing here, sorry, but until and unless internal communications team and HR team do not collaborate and empower each other, that messaging cannot go out that really well or create that kind of impact that you're looking for.
So they have to work together instead of working in silos.
Completely.
So you've been in the industry for the last 15 years. How have you seen the industry change in the last 15 years and where do you think, what is the future of the industry?
I think it's all about speed today.
Right.
You and me might be, discussing as a client or an agency or within a corporate communications also of responses to, a certain crisis that has come up. And we could be ignorant that that is already going viral outside.
Correct.
You or me might just pick up the phone and we're tweaking the messaging, that, let the internal grapevine within the organization, pass this messaging on. But in reality, technology has already communicated that.
Technology has been a huge game changer, I think, in every aspect of PR.
Completely. Also, you need to be thinking out of box. You need to be thinking on your feet. But we cannot forget that whatever you say today is going to go digital so fast. So you better be very strategic and be very, very careful on what words you're choosing.
Correct. So let's gaze into the crystal ball for the time being, right? What does the future hold for the PR industry in India?
Wow. I think we all are learning a lot. In a way, as the globe shut down, maybe all of us as communicators sat back to understand how do we upskill ourselves? What kind of knowledge sharing can we do? Are we evaluating what next? So, if I have to look at agencies existing today, I don't think they want to call themselves just PR agencies. I would look at them as pure play agencies that are offering you a more integrated approach in communications.
Absolutely.
And when I look at brands, I think they are exploring campaigns and messaging which can be universal and stay relevant throughout.
Okay. So how has the role of corporate communication changed in the last decade or so? While this was a very good perspective from agency side, talk to me a little bit more about the corporate communication role.
I have to say, corporate communications as a role, just look at it as being the why person. When you look at it, if you're asking me anything, or my client or my employee or an agency, I want to turn that conversation back and ask them why. Why are we doing this campaign? Why are we promoting these two products out of the 10 products that you have your booklet?
Right.
Or why are we going with this external partner to promote this campaign in this market? So for me, it is all about being the why person. Be it 10 years ago, be it right now, be it 10 years hence. If you're the why person and if you're asking these many questions, I
Right.
think you'll craft a better campaign.
So you have to be the voice of reason.
Yes, voice of reason and a timely voice of reason.
That's essential. That's a very interesting perspective. So, people who want to get into corporate communication or want to craft a career in corporate communication, what is your advice for them? What are the kind of skill sets one needs to be able to create a career?
I'm going to go back to something very basic over here. All of us love our childhood and memories from our childhood. The simple reason is because we all explored and that's how we learned. But as we grew up, I think maybe we stopped exploring, we stopped experimenting, we
Right.
left those experiences somewhere far away. I think we need to do that. We need to create that happy place. Keep exploring as much as possible. If you don't know a basic skill, go back and learn. I mean, the internet is literally a god of teaching today. I mean, you can just go and look
Yeah.
for anything out there. Yeah. I heard a 65-year-old neighbor of mine who said that she took the opportunity of this pandemic to learn everything that Microsoft has and how she can
Really?
make videos on her phone. Yes.
I mean, that's so cool.
Yeah, I was super impressed. And she said, I'm making videos, I'm taking audio clips from here, and I'm taking text from here, and I can really craft my messaging very differently. And trust me, she is a brilliant homemaker and she helps students in faraway areas who cannot get education learn over internet and over laptops, over global technology.
I think teachers have come out to be one of the biggest, most effective communicators in this pandemic.
And I'm going to ask why. Because they adapted to that technology, to that change really well, instead of really questioning why is this change happening, which very often we do.
Correct, correct.
So going back to your question, what is it that I need to upskill to or the skill set that I need? Keep exploring, learn, keep learning, read a lot. I think there have been times where I'm at a dinner table and I don't have a book to read. I have read labels of the bottles or the packets that have been kept there.
Really?
Yeah, I need something. I need to read something. So don't limit yourself. Just keep reading a lot because the more you read is the better you write. You can think, keep dreaming, keep thinking much more. And yeah, talk to people. That has been my biggest learning experience because every time there's something new, just as I told you about my neighbor or about a teacher or anybody else, I think people keep telling you at every point of time, this is what you can learn more.
Absolutely. So let's understand a little more about learning. I have been looking at a lot of your sessions which you've been doing with PRPOI. Tell us a little bit more about that.
What I enjoy is content creation. And at PRPOI, you don't have any limitation or a certain restriction or, if I may say, a certain funnel to follow. If you have an idea and if you think that there are people who can add insights to it,
bring a new perspective to something that's already existing. And I think that's lovely. And that's what PRPOI is doing.
That's fantastic to hear. I think more and more people can look at gaining new skills and learning more about it.
If I can add one more point, what I also feel that PRPOI is doing has captured the market gap really well. What we learn in our institutions or academically cannot always or easily be applied into a world where you're working,
Right.
into a practical environment. I think that's the gap that PRPOI also helps to fill in.
Absolutely. What is the best advice? Last question for the day. What is the best advice that you've received ever in your entire PR career that has, held true for you throughout?
For a communications professional, no 2 days are going to be the same. It's going to keep changing. So stop complaining. So work through it. And life is difficult for everybody. So don't crib about your clients or your brands not understanding your perspective. Work hard. Get them to understand that. And I'm sure you know whom I'm talking about. Some wise woman once told me, if you like something and you're passionate about it, just stick to it for the first 3 years. After that, the journey is beautiful.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very, very relevant advice, and I know who you're talking about. But we'll leave that for another conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today, Pooja.
It was all my pleasure. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Wonderful. We'll speak to you soon.
See you soon, and all the best to All About PR.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next Saturday for another interesting conversation on PR and communication on All About PR.